Appendices 1. Personalities associated with specific movements. Swadeshi movement. Lokmanya Tilak spread the message of Swadeshi to Pune and Bombay and organized Ganapati and Shivaji festivals to arouse patriotic feelings. He stressed that the aim of Swadeshi, boycott and national education was attainment of Swaraj. He opened cooperative stores and headed the Swadeshi Vastu Prakarini Sabha. Lala Lajpat Rai took the movement to Punjab and parts of northern India. He was assisted in his venture by Ajit Singh. His articles, which were published in Chaos the Samachar, endorsed technical education and industrial self-sufficiency. Syed Haider Raza popularized the Swadeshi movement in Delhi. Chidambaram Pillai spread the movement to Madras and organized the strike of the Tuticorin coral mill. He founded the Swadeshi Steam Navigation Company in Tuticorin on the east coast of the Madras province. Bipin Chandra Pal of the extremist clan played a major role in popularizing the movement, especially in the urban areas. He was the editor of New India. Liaquat Hossain of Patna suggested boycott and organized the East Indian Railway strike in 1906. He also wrote fiery articles in Urdu to rouse nationalist sentiments in Muslims. He was supported by other Muslim Swadeshi agitators like Ghaznavi, Rasul, Din Muhammad, Dadar Buks, Moniruzaman, Ismail Hussain, Siraji, Abdul Hussain and Abdul Ghaffar. Shyamsundar Chakrabarti, a Swadeshi political leader, helped in organizing strikes. Ramendra Sundar Trivedi called for observance of Arandan keeping the hearth unlit, as a mark of mourning and protest on the day the partition was put into effect. 803. 804 A brief history of modern India. Rabindranath Tagore composed several songs to inspire freedom struggle and revived Bengali folk music to rouse national pride. He also set up some Swadeshi stores and called for the observance of Raksha Bandhan, tying of threads on each other's wrists as a sign of brotherhood. Aurobindo Ghosh was in favor of extending the movement to the rest of India. He was appointed as the principal of Bengal National College, founded in 1906 to encourage patriotic thinking and an education system related to Indian conditions and culture. He was also the editor of Bande Mataram and through his editorials encouraged strikes, national education etc., in the spirit of the Swadeshi movement. He was assisted by Jatindranath Banerjee and Barindrakumar Ghosh, who managed the Anushilan Samiti. Surendranath Banerjee, who held moderate nationalist opinion, launched powerful press campaigns through newspapers like the Bengali and addressed mass meetings. He was assisted by Krishna Kumar Mitra and Narendra Kumar Sen. Ashwini Kumar Dutt, a school teacher, set up Swadesh Bandhab Samiti to propagate the Swadeshi movement and led the Muslim peasants of Barisal in their protests. Promatha Mitter, Barindra Kumar Ghosh, Jatindranath Banerjee founded the Anushilan Samiti in Calcutta. G.K. Gokhale, president of the Banaras session of the Indian National Congress, 1905, supported the Swadeshi movement. Abdul Halim Ghaznavi, a zamindar and a lawyer, set up Swadeshi industries and helped Aurobindo Ghosh to extend revolutionary activities outside Bengal. He was assisted by Abul Kalam Azad. Dadabhai Nauroji at the 1906 Congress session declared that the goal of the Congress was to attain Swaraj. Acharya P.C. Roy, in order to promote Swadeshi, set up the Bengal Chemicals Factory. Mukunda Das, Rajanikanta Sen, Dwajendralal Roy, Gorindramohini Dosi, Syed Abu Muhammad composed patriotic songs on Swadeshi themes. Girish Chandra Ghosh, Shiroda Prasad Vidyavinod and Amritlal Bose were playwrights who contributed to the Swadeshi spirit through their creative efforts. Appendices 805 Ashwini Kumar Banerjee, a Swadeshi activist, led the jute mill workers to form an Indian Millhands Union at Bhuj Bhuj in August 1906. Satish Chandra Mukherjee through his Dawn Society promoted an education system under indigenous control. Motilal Ghosh of the Amrit Bazar Patrika group contributed several fiery articles in the paper to arouse patriotic sentiments and was in favor of extremism. Brahmabandhab Upadhyay through his Sandhya and Yugantar, brought out by a group associated with Barindrakumar Ghosh, popularized Swaraj and the Swadeshi movement. Jogendra Chandra set up an association in March 1904 to raise funds to facilitate students to go abroad for technical and industrial training. Manindra Nandi, a zamindar from Kasimbazar, patronized several indigenous industries. Kalasankar Sukul brought out several pamphlets on Swadeshi movement and argued that a new kind of business class should be built to promote national interests. Sundar Lal, a student from UP, was drawn towards terrorism. Kunwarji Mehta and Kalyanji Mehta began organizational work through the Patidar Yuvak Mandal. Lala Harkishan Lal promoted Swadeshi movement in Punjab through the Brahmo Leaning Group, which began the Tribune newspaper. He also founded the Punjab National Bank. Muhammad Shafi and Fazl-i-Hussain were leaders of a Muslim group in Punjab involved in constructive Swadeshi, rather than boycott. V. Krishnaswamy Iyer headed the Mylapore group in the Madras Presidency. G. Subramania Iyer, T. Prakasam and M. Krishna Rao were other leaders in the south but were opposed to V.K. Iyer. Prakasam and Krishna Rao started Kisnapatrika in Masulipattnam in 1904. Subramania Bharati, a member of Tamilian revolutionary group and an eminent poet, played a significant role in arousing nationalism in the Tamil areas. 806 A brief history of modern India. Prabhatkusam Roy Chaudhary, Athanasuza Purba Kumar Ghosh were lawyers who helped in organizing labor. Premtosh Bose was another pioneer labor leader. Hemachandra Kanungo was one of the first revolutionary leaders, and after his return from Paris he had gone there to get military training. A combined bomb factory and religious school was set up in Calcutta. Khudiram Bose and Prafulla Chakki, two revolutionaries, murdered Kennedy on April 30, 1908. Poolan Das organized the Deccan Anushilan, with the Bara Dacoity as its first major venture. Madan Mohan Malviya and Motilal Nehru were in favor of cooperation with provincial governments and non-political Swadeshi movement. Sachindranath Sanyal emerged as a revolutionary leader in Benares through contacts with Mokodacharan Samadye, the editor of Sandhya after the death of Brahmabandhab. The Savarkar brothers founded the Mitra Mela in 1899 and were directly involved in extremism in Maharashtra. Din Shah Waka persuaded mill owners in Maharashtra to sell dhotis at moderate prices. Non-cooperation movement. M.K. Gandhi issued a manifesto in March 1920, announcing his doctrine of nonviolent non-cooperation movement. He was the main force behind the movement and urged the people to adopt Swadeshi principles and habits including hand spinning, weaving and work for removal of untouchability. He addressed lakhs of people during his nationwide tour in 1921. He suspended the movement after an outburst of violence at Chori Chora in Up in February 1922. Cr. Das moved the main resolution on non-cooperation in the annual session of the Congress in Nagpur in 1920 and played a major role in promoting the movement. A successful lawyer, he boycotted the law courts and gave up a lucrative practice. His three subordinates and supporters, Birendranath Shamshal in Midnapore, J.M. Sengupta in Chittagong and Subhash Bose in Calcutta played a major role in uniting the Hindus and Muslims. Appendices 807 Jawaharlal Nehru carried on the non-cooperation propaganda and encouraged the formation of Kisan Sabhas to take up the cause of the peasants exploited by government policies. He was against Gandhi's decision to withdraw the movement. J.M. Sengupta, a Bengali nationalist leader, supported the laborers on tea plantations in Assam in their protests and strike. Basanti Devi, wife of C.R. Das, was one of the first women volunteers to court arrest in 1921. Birendranath Shamshal organized the anti-union board agitation in the Kontai and Tamluk subdivisions of Midnapore. In November-December 1921, Shamshal initiated a no-tax movement among the Mahishya substantial tenantry of Midnapore. Jitendralal Banerjee organized the peasants in 1921-22 to resist settlement operations in Bogra, Pabna and Birbhum. Subhash Chandra Bose supported the movement and resigned from the civil service. He was appointed the principal of the National College in Calcutta. Ali brothers Shaukat Ali and Muhammad Ali, who were the foremost Khilafat leaders, vehemently supported Gandhi in his nationwide tour to spread the movement. At the All India Khilafat Conference, Muhammad Ali declared that it was religiously unlawful for the Muslims to continue in the British Army. The Ali brothers were arrested later. Motilal Nehru renounced his legal practice in response to the non-cooperation call by Gandhi. He was arrested in 1921. Other notable lawyers who gave up their practice included M.R. Jayakar, Saifuddin Kichlu, Vallabhai Patel, C. Rajagopalachari, T. Prakasam and Asaf Ali. Their sacrifice inspired many others, who boycotted government jobs and entered the mainstream of freedom struggle. Lala Lajpat Rai was initially not in favor of the policy of non-cooperation. He was against the boycott of schools, but later he supported the movement. In fact, he protested against its withdrawal in 1922. Rajendra Prasad actively supported the Gandhian movement in Bihar. Sardar Vallabhai Patel spread the movement in Gujarat and regarded non-cooperation as a feasible alternative to revolutionary terrorism to fight against a colonial government. 808 A brief history of modern India. Motilal Tejawat organized the bills and the Beel movement strengthened the non-cooperation activities. Alluri Sitaram Raju led the tribals in Andhra and combined their demands with those of the non-cooperation movement. Hazrat Mohani, a Khilafat leader, condemned the arrest of the Ali brothers and demanded complete independence. Purushottamadas the Kurdas, Jamnadas Dwarkadas, Kosg Jahangar, Froze Sethna and Setalvad, all of whom belonged to the industrialist section, launched an anti-non-cooperation association in 1920. Kunhamad Haji, Kalathangal Mamad, Ali Musaliar, Sithi Koya Thangal and Mbeki Koya Thangal acted as presidents of the Khilafat republics set up at a number of places. K. Madhavan Nair, U. Gopala Menon, Yaqub Hassan and P. Moideen Koya were the Khilafat leaders and supporters of the non-cooperation movement. They were arrested in February 1921. Muhammad Osman, another Khilafat agitator, organized volunteer groups and trade unions in Calcutta. Swami Vishwanand, supported by Ramjas Argawala, a Marwari mine owner, and Swami Darsananand organized the coal miners of the Ranaganj Jaria belt for the non-cooperation movement. Kishan Singh and Mota Singh called for no revenue movements and headed the Babar Akali group, which emerged as a dissident of Shiromani Gurudwara Prabandhik Committee, in 1921 in Jalandhar and Hoshiarpur. Jairamadas Dalatram was a close associate of Gandhi and promoted the non-cooperation movement. Swami Govindanand, a supporter of Gandhi, was jailed for 5 years on charges of sedition in May 1921. He later became a critic of the Congress. S.A. Dang, R.S. Nimkar, V.D. Sate, R.V. Nadkarni, S.V. Deshpande and K.N. Joglekar were members of a radical student group and promoted the movement, although they were not in line with Gandhi's views. They were influenced by R.B. Latwala, a millionaire with a socialist leaning. Dang, in April 1921, wrote Gandhi versus Lenin and was in favor of Swaraj, which would nationalize factories and distribute zamindari land among farmers. Appendices 809 Thiruvika supported the labor uprising and strike at the Buckingham and Carnatic textile mills from July to October 1921. Singaravalu Chettiar was a lawyer and labor organizer in Madras and played a significant role in merging the labor and freedom movements. He was the first communist in South India and was in favor of using nonviolent non-cooperation against capitalistic autocracy. Konda Venkatapaya, A. Kaleswara Rao, T. Prakasam and Padabi Sitaramaya led the non-cooperation movement in the Andhra Delta region. Dagirala Gopalakrishnaya inspired the inhabitants of the small town of Chirala in Guntur district to resist the government's plan to make the town a municipality and the hike in local taxes. N.C. Bardaloy, an Assam Congress leader, favored non-cooperation but was against strikes in plantations, as he himself was a planter. Assam Kesari, Ambakagiri Roy Chaudhary's poetry had a profound impact on the Assamese and helped in arousing nationalist spirit in them. Muzaffar Ahmad formed the pioneer communist group in Calcutta. He was influenced by M.N. Roy and Nalini Gupta. Samshwar Prasad Chaudhary, a student in Calcutta, organized the peasants protesting against indigo cultivation on the Rajshaski Nadia and Pabna Murshidabad border. Purushottamdas Tandon, Ganesh Shankar Vidyarthi, Govind Ballabh Pant and Lal Bahadur Shastri began their political careers in 1920–21, with the onset of the non-cooperation movement. Premchand, a well-known novelist, resigned his post in a Gorakhpur government school in February 1921 and started contributing to the journal Aaj. His novels Premasharam, Rangbhumi etc., reflect Gandhian principles and values and endorse non-cooperation as an effective weapon to gain freedom. Baba Ramchandra organized peasants' revolt in South and Southeast Awadh and helped merge the peasants' revolt with the non-cooperation movement. He was arrested in February 1921. A. Shah Naeem Atta announced himself King of Ceylon, and initiated no taxes movement. 810 A brief history of modern India. M.N. Roy, a communist leader, was the editor of the communist journal Vanguard. He condemned the Sessions Court's sentence to death to 172 of the 225 accused in the Chori Chora incident. Later, 19 were hanged and the rest transported, as against 22 policemen killed. Bhagwan Ahir, an army pensioner in Gorakhpur village, was beaten up by the British police. The incident flared up nationalist sentiments in the village, which then led to the killing of 22 policemen in Chori Chora, by the peasants. Civil Disobedience Movement. M.K. Gandhi formally launched the civil disobedience movement on April 6, 1930 by picking a handful of salt after the completion of historic Dandi March, from Sabarmati Ashram to Dandi, thus breaking the salt law imposed by the government. He was the major force behind the movement and inspired grassroots participation in the freedom struggle. C. Rajagopalachari led a salt march from Trichinopoly to Vedaranyam on the Tanjore coast in Tamil Nadu, in support of the civil disobedience movement. He was arrested on April 30, 1930. K. Kalapan, a Nair Congress leader, launched the Vaikom Satyagraha and marched from Calicut to Payoneer in defiance of salt laws. Jawaharlal Nehru was actively involved in the movement and was arrested on April 17, 1930 for defiance of the salt law. He formulated a radical agrarian program and suggested formation of the Constituent Assembly as the prime political slogan. P. Krishna Pillai defended the national flag and resisted lathicharge on the Calicut beach on November 11, 1930. He later founded the Kerala Communist Movement. Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan formed a clan of non-violent revolutionaries, the Kudai Kidmadgars known as Red Shirts, who played an active role in the movement. Sarojini Naidu, the first Indian woman to become the president of the Congress, was involved in a march towards the Darsana Salt Works, a government salt depot. Other leaders who participated in this total non-violent affair were Imam Sahib. Appendices 811. Gandhi's comrade of the South African struggle, and Manilal, Gandhi's son. Surya Sen's Chittagong revolt group carried out a raid on 2 armories and declared the establishment of a provisional government. He issued a manifesto in the name of Indian Republican Army and called on the Indians to revolt against the British rule. Abbas Tayyabji, a leader of the nationalist Muslims in Bombay, took the place of Gandhi in the movement after the latter's arrest. However, he too was arrested by the government. Ambalal Sarabhai and Kasturbai Lakai gave their cooperation to Motilal Nehru in removing the barriers between the Congress and the Bombay mill owners and industrialists. Industrialists such as G.D. Birla, who donated from 1 to 5 lakh rupees, Jamnalal Bajaj, who served as the AICC treasurer for several years and represented Gandhian leadership in Bombay, Homi Modi, Walchand Harachand, Lalji Naranji, Purushotamdas Thakurdas, Lala Shri Ram etc., supported the movement in its first phase. Homi Modi, in his presidential speech to Bombay Mill Owners Association in March 1931 said that though the Swadeshi movement had helped the Indian industry, frequent strikes had dislocated trade and industry. Naranji and Thakurdas, who had remained indifferent to the nationalist struggle in 1921, demanded Indian control over finance, currency, fiscal policy and railways. However, from September 1930, there was a sharp decline in support from the industrialists and traders, with the prominent businessmen having differences of opinion with the Congress. Chandraprabha Saikiani instigated the aboriginal Kachari villagers in Assam to break forest laws. Subhash Bose and J.M. Sengupta led the faction group in Bengal Congress and set up rival organizations to conduct civil disobedience. Bose criticized Gandhi, when the latter suspended the movement in May 1933. He was supported by Vithalbhai Patel. Banga Maji and Samra Maji led the movement in Hazaribagh along the Sanskritizing lines with the Congress. Kalka Prasad, a local leader in Rai Bareilly, promoted the No Rent campaign. Santi and Suniti Chaudhary assassinated the district magistrate. 812 A Brief History of Modern India of Tipura, Stevens. Their action marked the entry of women in the revolutionary movement. Seth Akal Singh, a nationalist landlord, financed the Gram Seva Sangh in Agra and remained indifferent to riots in the area, while strictly following the policy of non-violence. Sheikh Abdullah, a Muslim graduate, started an agitation and attacked the Srinagar jail on July 31, 1931 where 21 persons were killed in police firing. He also developed close contacts with a group of anti-autocratic Jammu Hindus led by P.N. Bazaz. Muhammad Yasin Khan, a Muslim leader in Punjab, organized the Mios semi-tribal peasant community with leanings towards Islam, to protest against Maharaja Jai Singh Sawai's hike in revenue, bagar, and reservation of forests for the purpose of hunting. K. M. Ashraf, who became India's first Marxist historian, was associated with the movement. Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya, who was an upholder of Gandhian policies since 1920s, began to drift away with the launch of Harijan campaign by Gandhi. He started a breakaway Congress Nationalist Party. Satyamurthy, Bulabai Desai, M.A. Ansari and B.C. Roy demanded a return to electoral politics by way of a revived Swarajya Party. Jayaprakash Narayan, Akhat Patwardhan, Yusuf Merali, Ashok Mehta and Mano Masani wanted the Congress to have affinity with left-wing. Samprananand formulated a tentative socialist program for India and a Congress Socialist Party was started in 1934, which was supported by Narendra Dev. K.F. Nariman and Yusuf Mehr Ali led the Congress youth wing and later emerged as socialist leaders. Swami Govindanand led the movement in Karachi and Sindh. N.V. Gadgil with his socialist leanings lent support to a temple entry movement in 1929 and established friendly ties with the non-Brahmin Satyashodak Samaj represented by Keshavrao Jedhi of Pune. B.R. Ambedkar, who was the leader of the Untouchable. Appendices 813 Mahars, attended the Round Table Conference in 1930. However, the Congress failed to win over the political agitation of the Mahars. Gopabandhu Chaudhary popularized the movement in Orissa and led the Salt Satyagraha in the coastal areas of Balasore, Cuttack and Puri districts. Tarunaram Phukan and N.C. Bardaloy, two prominent Congress leaders, were against the movement in Assam. They refused to take up forest satyagraha officially. Jadanandan Sharma activated the Kisan Sabha movement in Gaya district of Bihar. Dagiralabala Ramakrishnaya of the Krishna district initiated a no-revenue campaign in 1931 in coastal Andhra. He also wrote a Telugu ballad Gandhi Gita which aroused patriotic sentiments. N.V. Rama Naidu and N.C. Ranga organized a forest satyagraha in Venkatagiri estate in Nellore in 1931. A.K. Gopalan, a school teacher, was a popular activist at Guruvayur in Kerala and later became Kerala's most popular communist peasant leader. Manu Gand and Chetu Koiku offered forest satyagraha in Batul in central provinces. Maulana Basani organized a large Praja Sammelan at Sirajganj and demanded abolition of zamindari and reduction in debts. B.T. Ranadev and S.V. Deshpande in Bombay and Abdul Halim, Somnath Lahiri and Ranan Sen in Calcutta were the young communist militants who organized several labor strikes. V.B. Karnik, Maniban Kara, Rajani Mukherjee and Niharendu Dutta were other leaders who started trade union activities. M.N. Roy and his followers popularized socialist ideas in the villages and a no-tax campaign was started in Awadh. Quit India movement. M.K. Gandhi planned an all-out campaign to compel British withdrawal from India, after the failure of the Cripps mission to reach a compromise. At the historic August meeting at Gowalia Tank in Bombay, Gandhi proclaimed his mantra, "Do or die." He was arrested on August 9, 1942. He undertook a 21-day fast in February 1943 to protest against the government actions against Indians involved in the movement. 814 A brief history of modern India. Jayaprakash Narayan was a member of the Congress Socialist Group and played a prominent role in the movement. Ram Manohar Lohia, Aruna Asaf Ali, Suketa Kripalani, Chotubai Puranik, Biju Patnaik, R.P. Goenka and Achyut Patwardhan were leaders associated with the underground movement and revolutionary activities in support of Quit India movement. Chitu Pand, who called himself a Gandhian, formed a parallel government and captured all the 10 police stations in Balia, in East Up in August 1942. Usha Mehta actively supported the movement and was an important member of a small group which ran the Congress radio. Jawaharlal Nehru initially supported the arch-moderates, who were opposed to Gandhi's plan, but later, he moved the Quit India resolution on August 8, 1942. Samadhi Morarji helped Achyut Patwardhan in his underground activities. She later became India's leading woman industrialist. Rashbihari Bose, a revolutionary activist, was elected the president of the Indian Independence League, formed in March 1942, in June 1942. He was living in Japan since 1915 as a fugitive. He mobilized Indian soldiers taken as prisoners of war by the Japanese forces after the British was defeated in Southeast Asia for an armed rebellion against the British colonial rule. Captain Mohan Singh, an Indian soldier fighting on behalf of the British, was taken as prisoner of war by the Japanese. He was persuaded by a Japanese army officer to work with the Japanese for India's freedom. He was appointed the commander of the Indian National Army. Subhash Chandra Bose joined the Indian National Army in 1943. One of his most famous declarations was, "Tum mujhe khoon do mai tumhi azadi dunga," you give me blood, I will give you freedom. The INA played a significant role in the independence struggle under the leadership of Subhash Bose. C. Rajagopalachari and Bulabai Desai were the arch-moderates, who were in favor of recognizing the rights of Muslim-majority provinces to secede through plebiscites after independence had been gained. They resigned from the AICC in July 1942. Appendices 815 kg. Mashruwala brought out two militant issues of Harijan after the arrest of Mahadev Desai to arouse the sentiments of people. K.T. Bashyam, a Congress leader in Bangalore, played an active role in the trade union field and organized strikes by about 30,000 workers. Satish Samanta, a local Congress leader and the first Sarbadinayak of the Tamlik Jatiya Sarkar, helped in establishing a rebel, national government, in Tamlik subdivision of Midnapore. Matanjini Hazra, a 73-year-old peasant widow in Tamluk, was killed in violence on September 29, 1942, when the Sudahata police station was captured. Matanjini kept the national flag aloft even after being shot. Lakshman Naik, an illiterate villager, led a large tribal population from Koraput to protest against the Jaipur Zamindari and attack police stations. Lakshman Naik was hanged on November 16, 1942 for allegedly murdering a forest guard. Nana Patil headed a rebellion in Satara.